It's good to see everybody. I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of State and Community Corrections to order and welcome all of you here. I appreciate your attendance, and we have a full agenda today, so we're going to get rolling quickly. And as is our custom now with Zoom, I immediately hand the meeting over to Adam for Zoom instructions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I will give brief instructions for this meeting. We are using the Zoom webinar platform. We will support public participation during this meeting. If you are connecting by phone, please be sure to mute your microphones or phones by dialing *6 to mute and unmute. When you're called upon to speak, please eliminate background noise before unmuting your microphone. If we missed you, please send a written comment to publiccomment@bscc.ca.gov. The email address is also available on our website. Board members, if you wish to make a public comment on any of the agenda items, please use the raise hand feature on your Zoom or physically raise your hand so we could see you. Members of the public, we will give the members of the public the opportunity to comment after each agenda item. After the board's discussion of all of the information items, there will be an opportunity for public comment on any of the information items. Agenda item 5 at the very end is the opportunity for any member of the public to make a comment on any agenda items or other comments in general. You will have 2 minutes for your comments. Participants who wish to make a comment, again, please email publiccomment@bscc.ca.gov with your name and the agenda item you'd like to comment on. You can also use the raise hand feature on your Zoom application. If you are calling by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. I will call out the phone number you dialed in with and unmute your phone by dialing *6. We will lower your hand once your name is received. Madam Chair, that concludes my instructions.
Thank you, Adam. Will you please take the roll?
Okay. Chair Penner.
Present.
Miss Allison.
Present.
Mr. Vera-Rosa.
Present.
Mr. Groudon.
Here.
Mr. Gore.
Present.
Miss Vernon.
Present.
Mr. Bronco.
Present.
Mr. Mills.
I'm present.
Mr. Budnick is absent today. Mr. Steinhardt.
Here.
And Ms. Kumpion.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to now move to the information items. But before I do that, I want to take a moment to thank Gordon Branco for his service to the board. As you may or may not know, he is representing the Judicial Council, and they have appointed another judge to this spot. And I want to simply take a moment and allow any other board members who would like to do so to thank you for all that you have done. You have not just participated in these meetings, but done a great deal of heavy lifting with executive steering committees. You are well prepared, and you orient yourself to every agenda item and are a huge help to us as we prepare for these meetings. I just want to really sincerely thank you for all you've done for us, and we will miss you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I'll miss you too.
Well, I hope our paths will cross again over in Chief Mills territory, Santa Cruz, because I know we're both there a fair amount. But any of the other board members wish to share anything, or Katie or Aaron, actually.
Well, I'll just jump in and say it's been a pleasure having you on the board, and I love your enthusiasm and raising your hand as you have, and wish you the best.
Thank you.
All right. All right.
Judge Bronco, just want to thank you for your time also and your wisdom that you've brought to this group and the guidance. So we really appreciate your time here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank you for welcoming me the way that you did for our half a day that we had pre-COVID. So thank you for your guidance and for your leadership here. Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you in person again, maybe this.
Yeah. All right. All right. We're going to move to the information items. And as we do that, I just want to remind you that we'll go through these items. And at the end of that, we will move to public comment. And remembering Adam's instructions, feel free to get in the queue. So item 1 is, I think, Katie, are you doing the COVID update?
I am, yes,
That will
Linda.
be Katie sharing the COVID update. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you, Chair Penner and members of the board. Good morning and welcome. I'd like to take a point of personal privilege to add my thanks and deep gratitude to Gordon. You have been a very involved board member, and that means so much to me personally and professionally. I believe, Gordon, that you attended almost all of the listening sessions that we have had, particularly in the last 15 months over COVID, when so many of our meetings moved to the virtual platform. And I really, truly appreciate that additional level of dedication that you bring. And I know that you truly care about this. And I also will just say, I sure hope that when you have time, you would consider appointments to executive steering committees in the future. We love your input. You consider, you don't have to say yes.
I'm so grateful for everything that you said, except that last comment.
That last little bit, okay.
I really appreciate it. Maybe just before you start, I do want to say it's been a privilege to serve on this committee. As Katie and Linda know, I didn't even know that the board existed until I got a phone call to ask that if I would serve. And I've learned a lot from this service and really, really appreciated this. Since I just have a moment, I did serve on a couple of committees, and I just want to acknowledge Ricardo and his crew for teaching me so much, as well as Helene and her crew for really, really helping me. And actually, last but not least, Adam has,
Yes,
for 3 years, has taken care of me from Form 700 to getting my computer working, to knowing when to call and what to do. And Adam, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. You were a pleasure to work with as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's high praise, Judge. Adam's never said that about me.
true story.
Sure. Well, whatever. Okay, Katie.
Thanks, Linda. I
Thanks.
do believe I have the screen share ready on the proper screen. So let me know if you can see that first full slide on recent populations and trends. Can I get a thumbs up? Do you see it, Adam? Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So again, good morning, board members and members of the public. Very happy to be able to report, not surprisingly, some increasingly better news related to COVID-19 in county jails. I'll go through this fairly quickly. I think people are generally familiar with the data points that we have been collecting, and also to remind you that these slides are available in the board binder, and always that's available on our website as well. So starting with the recent population trends, this graph shows the population in statewide average daily population, that's across all the counties, that begins for the last month we had a full count before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So in the late days of February 2020, the statewide ADP was almost 73,000. As you can see, it was at its lowest point in May of last year, and then has climbed a bit, and a fairly significant part of that is also going to begin to be mitigated because, of course, CDCR had restricted intake. So many people were staying longer in the county jails. The numbers have roughly leveled out over the last several months. And as of our most recent available week, May 29th, the population was 60,499. Let's see here. Next slide. Okay, I'll do that over here. There we go. Okay, so this just is the same information zoomed in over the pandemic period. So from July 2020, just so you can see the relatively slow climb of the line and the flatness in the recent months. This is an important table. It talks about the case trends in county jails. I'll just do a very quick reminder. You see 2 lines on each graph because we have the public health requirement that if the number of cases reported from a facility is fewer than 10, we don't know if that number is 1 anywhere. It could be anywhere from 1 to 10. So we have the 2 lines on the graph that account for if the number is 1, it would be at that lower level. If the number is 10, it would be at the higher level. So in all cases, it is safe to assume that the higher graph is less accurate. The numbers have typically been small. So over the months, you see the data on the number of people tested statewide. And in the most recent week that is available, 6,375 people were tested. The total number of detained people confirmed positive. This is where there's increasingly improving numbers, which is of course a relief. And the peak that you see here was in the middle of December of last year, and the cases the confirmed positive cases have continued to drop, with the most recent number being 10 at a low and 100 at a high. I'll of course pause for questions, but if there's anything you need to ask about, feel free to jump in and go ahead and talk because I can't see your photos right now. These are the data for the positivity rate. Same information as below, with the positivity rate likely much closer to this 0.16% that you see for the most recent week available. The bar graph at the bottom here shows the hospitalizations. It's helpful to note that for several weeks in March and April and early May, there were no hospitalizations statewide. But this one for the week of May 8 is 2. Yeah, that's 2 people hospitalized statewide. And then 1 in the week of May 15th, and then again back to 0 right now. So obviously very significantly improving trends. These data, the second half of this presentation is on our juvenile detention facilities statewide. Of course, much smaller numbers overall. Before the COVID pandemic hit, there were 3,461 young people detained across the state in late February 2020. Now that number, and that number obviously dropped precipitously, has continued to drop a bit, and as of the most recent week available is at 2,062. Here is the statewide average ADP over a smaller time band from when we started the data collection last year. And these are the data on case trends. I would just like to note that on the number of tests that you see, these are of course highly influenced by larger counties. So when a larger county has makes the decision to test, that shows the numbers going up quite a bit. A more important line to look at are the number of confirmed positive cases statewide, which of course are concerning. And again, the number is very likely much closer to 4 than to 40. The last slide here shows the positivity rate, and it has been fairly low since the month of January, where it peaked in the juvenile facilities, and now again is probably close to 1%, a little under 1% there. And that concludes my presentation on the COVID data. I would like to add a thought for board members and the members of the public. These data collection efforts have been very, very important during the COVID-19 pandemic, and they have also been a significant amount of additional work for people in the detention facilities collecting these data, as well as for our research staff. We absolutely intend to continue this data collection for at least a few more months, but we may want to come back to the board for a conversation at the September meeting about continuing with the data collection. So at this point, I would like to see if board members have any questions. All right, seeing none, that concludes my presentation.
All right, we'll move then directly to the chair's report, and mine will be brief. I think you'll hear plenty of my voice throughout the rest of this meeting. I'd only like to take a moment and congratulate one of our board members, Sheriff Groudon, for becoming last night installed as the president of the State Sheriff's Association. It is certainly an honor to have the president of the association on our board, and we are delighted now knowing that your time will be heavily part and parcel to the many obligations you have, including your full-time job that you're staying with the board. And it was great to hear your remarks last night, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that.
Moving on now to the executive director's report. Katie?
Thank you so much, Linda. Just a few things to move through here. I would like to begin with an update on the process of our adult regulation revisions. And we have an executive steering committee whose work actually began well before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, the requirement to move to trying to complete the very important and arduous task of going through all of our regulations for necessary updates and revisions. The virtual platform was difficult. And one of the pieces, quite frankly, that was hard for us, in spite of really a lot of effort to engage with the public, was to get public comment into that process. I really want to offer a great deal of thanks to Deputy Director Allison Ganter and her team of field reps from FSO. The field reps ran the work groups that met over this time on a virtual basis. And Allison and our colleague Ginger Wolf have been working so hard to get this done. I'd also like to thank the chair of the Executive Steering Committee, Brandon Barnes, and give you an update on the recent work that ESC has done. The committee met on May 25th on Zoom, of course, to begin to review all of the proposed revisions. And for the first time in this process, we did have a whole lot of public participation in that meeting, which of course is always helpful to the process. There were many requests for additional time for public comment into the process. So we worked together to look at the calendar and try to optimize the need to get the adult regulations done and begin through the administrative office of AOL. That's the whole process for regulations revision on the state side after we complete our drafting, because of course we need to get this work done so that we can begin the juvenile regulation revision. So we're trying to optimize all these calendar considerations. And the request we heard loud and clear at the last virtual meeting was that people are interested in ensuring that people with lived experience and people who are currently incarcerated have the opportunity to make suggestions. So we have extended the public comment period through July 31st. And then we've set the next executive steering committee for the end of August, with the goal being that that'll be the point where they'll be able to approve proposed revisions, and we can begin the second part of the process with the office of, and I can't think of that name. I want to say my old office, but anyway, the Administrative Office of Law or something like that. Sorry about that.
Office of Administrative Law.
Thank you so much, David. Office of Administrative Law. We do hope to bring for your consideration and approval all of the proposed revisions in November. Allison, would you like to add anything at this point?
Just to make sure people are aware that there's plenty more time for public feedback. You can email me directly, allison.ganter@bscc.ca.gov, or we have a email, regulations@bscc.ca.gov. There's lots of information on our website, and we're really happy that we have some extra time for some public input. So we're looking forward to seeing that. And again, just to echo all of the thanks for the ESC members and work group members and public members for their input, and especially to the FSO team. It's I don't think we'll ever grow tired of saying how difficult this year has been, to do all this work virtually. It's an important and really important and ongoing undertaking. So thank you, Katie, and we're looking forward to public input. Thanks.
Great. Any questions from members of the board? Yes, Norma, please.
Hi, you had said earlier that you were trying to get input from people who are currently incarcerated. And I was wondering if you had a plan for that, or if maybe you wanted to send some flyers somewhere, or how that would look.
Norma, I would be happy to take any suggestions that you may have. It is my sense, and we'll probably hear about this in public comment, that many of the advocacy groups and individuals were interested in doing some outreach to people they are connected to who are currently incarcerated. So Allison and I would be glad to get on a phone call with you if you have other suggestions.
And I would be happy to participate in that as well, to help out with logistics.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Secretary Allison. Great. Adam, will you please help us get something on the calendar? That would be terrific. We can do it in the next couple days.
Definitely.
Okay. Anything further on the regs revision process? Okay. I would like to just, Linda, I'm just going to move on. Oh, this is still within my report. Sorry. BSCC budget. The budget process, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is in the final negotiation stage. There is a June 15th deadline for the legislature to vote on the final budget bill. And some years ago, new requirement came into law that says bills have to be in print for 3 days. So perhaps a more meaningful deadline is July the 12th, which is this Saturday, for everything to be in print. So really, any day now, a final budget proposal is expected to emerge. The governor is negotiating with the leadership in both houses of the legislature. Those conversations are ongoing. And again, as many of you are aware, the May revise included really just so many new proposals and new spending plans. I would like to mention one thing that is certainly of concern to me, and that is that the governor had proposed in what's called a spring finance letter, a budget change that would add 14 new positions to the BSCC, 8 inspectors and 6 combination of analysts and managers for our enhanced inspection process. And as part of that, we propose to increase the frequency of inspections in all of the facilities across the state, adult and juvenile. So rather than once over a 2-year cycle, there would be an inspection once per year, per calendar year. So unfortunately, both of the budget subcommittees in the state Senate and Assembly rejected that proposal, except for a couple of aspects. The BCP also included funding of $150,000 for some data IT type enhancements. That part of the proposal was approved. And in addition, the statutory change to allow some of our inspections to be unannounced in nature, those 2 aspects went through, but the staffing did not. We're super concerned about that because we really want this enhanced inspection process to work and to be meaningful for the people of California, to work even better. I would say the inspection process does work fairly well. So we're hopeful that when all the budget negotiations come out in final form, that perhaps those positions would be put back into the budget. That's what we're hoping for. The other issues that have come up in the May revise for the board are really significant increases in the grants area. So our CPGP team with Ricardo at the helm will, if these all remain in the budget, again, to be determined with the final agreements, what the governor had put into May revise was an additional $200 million for our CalVIP program. That's one time to be spread out over the next 3 years. And then the legislative proposals included another $30 million in one-time funding for our adult reentry grant, and then some other one-time proposals, 2 related to gun violence reduction, and another one of $18 million for a county resentencing pilot. And those details are not yet available, but we are waiting to see if that comes out, and we'll advise you more during the July board meeting. The thing I wanted to also say is that we usually set a July board date as tentative, depending on whether there are things we'll want to move quickly on in the state budget. And as you've just heard me talk about, there are going to be things we'll want to do, like getting executive steering committees started. So please do put that July date in ink. And Adam, you can give me a thumbs up. I think we said the 15th of July.
That's correct. July
Okay, great. So yeah, so we'll send out a reminder, but we will need a board meeting in July, and we will do it on the virtual platform. Any questions about any of the budget items? Thank you. Oh, I wanted to tee up something for Aaron, excuse me. We have, see, they were waiting, I missed a line. We received the Burn JAG solicitation just last week, or maybe earlier this week. And Aaron was going to give a bit of a legal update on what we're seeing in that new solicitation.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, just a brief update. So as you will recall, the state's been involved with litigation with the US government over certain conditions that were added to the Burn JAG solicitation dealing with immigration enforcement. All of those conditions have been removed. They are not part of this year's solicitation, which was expected. Cal DOJ is currently looking at that solicitation just to make sure everything is moving forward accordingly. I did want to flag that the litigation isn't quite 100% over just yet. There is some negotiation still going back and forth between a couple of states, including our state and the federal government, about how to sort of wrap up and resolve that litigation that's ongoing. Also, I'm just going to segue right into the other part of the legal update, which is I just want to announce again some of the recusals for this board agenda and wanted to flag for you. As of course, I would ask that you look at the proposed conditional awards for all our grants that we have coming up on the agenda, just to make sure that there are no conflicts for anyone. I would want to flag specifically for the Title II and SB 823 agenda that Chief Vernon recuse yourself on those two items. And then just a flag for the RSAT grant. There is an award that will be proposed to be going to Santa Cruz County. So Chief Mills, you may want to recuse yourself from that. You are not required to recuse yourself on that item. And with that, that would be the conclusion of my legal update.
Okay. And Katie, just circling back around, you had talked about the survey, the juvenile survey. I wondered if you wanted to expand on that a little.
Thank you, Linda. I apologize. I have too many different pieces of paper in front of me. So yes, I did want to mention and also start with a thank you to Mr. Steinhardt and Mr. Barranco. We had an internal conversation and began to more specifically lay out a timeline for the survey on fees and charges related to juvenile detention facilities, which is something we discussed at the April board meeting. Once we built the timeline and made sure to allow the opportunity for public input into the survey development, we realized that our hope to get that to get the results of the survey back to this board in September would not be feasible. So we have revised the timeline and you'll get that back in November. I'd like to encourage anyone who's interested in this to keep an eye on our website. We'll have a substantive update at the July meeting, but we will be building in a public comment process. And thank you again to Gordon and David for their help, and also to our terrific research team for their work on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I see David has a comment.
No, that was a thumbs up. Thanks for the thanks kind of
Well,
information.
okay. I forgive that movement. Okay, moving on then. I had the sense, Aaron, that you were done with your legal update, and moving on to the legislative update from Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The legislative update is in your board materials. Following the House of Origin deadlines, we are currently tracking 8 remaining bills that may impact the BSCC. All the bills have moved to the second house. Some bills of note are AB 653, which would require the BSCC to administer the medication-assisted treatment grants. We have AB 731 and AB 1474, which would require data and research on recidivism and cost of incarceration. I want to mention a couple of bills of note that could have impacted the BSCC or our regulations. These have not moved to the second house and may not be acted on until 2022. And those are AB 1165 by Assemblymember Gibson, that would have prohibited the use of storage of chemical agent, with the exception of OC sprays inside on the grounds of juvenile facilities, and the use of chemical agents against those under 18 years of age. We have SB 493 by Senator Bradford, which would have repurposed the use of the JJCPA funds also would have required the BSCC to include additional disaggregated information regarding race, ethnicity, and gender identity of program participants in the JJCPA reports that we collect from the counties. We will continue to monitor these bills. The governor must sign or veto bills on October 21st. And Madam Chair, that concludes my legislative report.
Thank you, Adam. We're now moving to the public comment portion of the information items, and I know we presented a number of them. Adam, do we have individuals in the queue?
I do not have anything for the information items. Members of the public, if you would like to use the raise hand feature, please do so now. Madam Chair, at this time, we have no public comments for information items.
Okay, I will now move to the consent agenda, and that would be the minutes from the April 8th meeting. Hoping you've had time to review those. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I will look to the board for a motion and a second.
Move approval. Who got there first?
I'll do second if I was not first.
All right.
Steinhardt and
First-
Gore.
Thank you. Adam, you take roll.
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Virarosa,
Aye.
Mr. Graben,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Vernon, Mr. Bronco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Moving now to the action items, the discussion items. I'm looking at agenda item B, and I think Timothy Polasic will present on this item, the Title II 3-year state plan.
And before we begin this item, Madam Chair would ask that Chief Vernon recuse herself by turning off her audio and her camera.
Thank you.
Tim, you're muted if you can hear us.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Timothy Polasic, Field Representative with the Division of Corrections Planning and Grant Programs. Today, I'm presenting agenda item B, which is a request for approval of the Title II Grant Program State Advisory Committee on Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, or SACJAB, 3-year state plan. This agenda item requests board approval of the 3-year state plan covering federal fiscal years 2021 through 2023 as recommended by the SACJAB. The Title II grant program is authorized under the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, or JJRA, of 2018 and administered by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. The JJRA requires states that receive Title II awards to establish a state advisory group to prepare and administer the state's comprehensive Title II 3-year plan. The SACJAB is the SAG, the state advisory group for California, and advises the board. To inform the SACJAB on the development of the 3-year state plan, public input was gathered through a virtual public listening session held on November 12, 2020, through an electronic survey, and through local community input sessions. The local community input sessions were new this year, and the SACJAB members found them to be informative and helpful, and they're included as appendices within the state plan. The SACJAB considered the diverse feedback that was provided and identified the following program purpose areas for the Title II state plan: aftercare reentry, alternatives to detention and placement, community-based programs and services, diversion, job training, mentoring, counseling, and training programs. Following the approval of the Title II 3-year state plan, the SACJAB, or a subcommittee established by the SACJAB, will develop a request for proposals that reflect the above program purpose areas and The RFP will then be approved by the board prior to its release. For this agenda item, staff recommends the board take the following action. Approve the Title II program 2021 through 2023 three-year state plan as recommended by the SACJAB. Direct the SACJAB to develop a request for proposals that supports the state plan, which may include establishing a subcommittee for grant development if appropriate. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Seeing none. Do I see a hand raised or am I confused? No? Okay. Do we have anyone in the queue for public comment on this item, Adam?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one member so far. And I do see a hand raised. We have two for agenda item B so far.
Okay. We'll move to those two and
I
close
see
the
Miguel
queue.
Garcia.
Yes, so the first one would be Dominique Nong.
Oh, sorry.
Dominique, do you want to go ahead?
Are we having technical difficulty getting her unmuted?
I've allowed Dominique to talk.
Now, hello, can you hear me?
There you are.
There we go. Sorry, I just got the alert on my computer. Good morning, Dominique Nong from the Children's Defense Fund, California. We would encourage the BSCC to examine and try to replicate both the process and resulting product of the SACJA JDP and its administration of the various funding streams under its purview. The committee membership, particularly the meaningful inclusion of directly impacted individuals and community-based service providers, the process of collaborating closely with community-based organizations to receive community input, and the values that guided the plan development are all things that should be uplifted and replicated in order for the BSCC to fulfill its leadership role in aligning its own policies and practices and that of grant recipients with the health first, care first model of juvenile justice adopted by the legislature and the governor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Miguel Garcia. Miguel, please. Oh, there you go.
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Miguel Garcia, and I'm with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Also, as a member of the State Advisory Committee on Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, I firsthand seen the benefits of getting community input and also viewing the programs in a health version lens. I agree with the comments that were made earlier by Dominique, and I second, and hopefully we could replicate this product in other grants. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam?
Adam, we have no further comments for agenda item.
Okay. All right. We're requesting approval on that. Do we have a motion and a second?
Linda, and sorry, Dean Grouden here. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation. On the agenda item I'm looking at, there is looks like a typo on the first bullet point. It says 2021 to 2021. I know when Tim read it, it's 2021 to 2023. So just with that clarification.
We will make that correction. Thank you.
So I'll make that motion to approve staff's recommendation with that one correction.
And I'll second it, including the.
Thank you. Good catch. Adam?
Madam Chair?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Vera-Rosa?
Aye.
Mr. Grouden?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Vernon?
She's been recused.
Yes. Mr. Bronco?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt?
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion?
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item C, and I assume Chief Vernon continues to be recused. Do we have any other recusals on this item?
I don't
Aaron?
believe so.
Okay. Thank you. I'd now invite, who's doing the, John Prince, to come forward and present the item.
Right. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm John Prince, Deputy Director of the County Facilities Construction Division. Agenda item C proposes the board approve the youth programs and the facilities grant portion of the Senate Bill 823 awards as recommended by the executive scoring panel, which was co-chaired by Linda Penner and David Steinhardt. And I'd like to thank all the members for your service on this. It was much appreciated, especially in the short time frame that we had there. Sorry, somebody's
Hold just a minute. I think we have somebody that's not muted.
I think Sean got it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. At the April 8th, 2021 board meeting, the board approved the formation of the executive scoring panel and the release of the RFA, which is attachment C4 in your binders. The RFA was split into two parts. Part A of the RFA made $5 million available to fund up to 5 projects for up to $1 million each to develop regional hubs to serve youth referred by other counties in 3 high needs programming and treatment areas that were identified by the board, including females, youthful sex offenders, and seriously mental ill youth. And Part B made $4.12 million available to all counties by formula based on county juvenile population to support infrastructure and improvements for local programs and facilities for their in-county population of realigned youth. BSCC received 3 applications for Part A requesting $3 million from El Dorado, Fresno, and Sonoma counties, and 37 applications for Part B funding by the application deadline. All 3 applicants for Part A focused on youthful sex offenders as their high needs area. The executive scoring panel has rated all the Part A applicants, and all 3 proposals met the scoring thresholds. Staff have also evaluated the completeness of the Part B applications and then made the funding recommendations as shown on the slides and attachment C2 in your binders. And the corresponding proposal summaries are also provided in attachment C3 in your binders as well, so that you can view all of these as I go through them. I know it's quite a bit of information, but they are in your binders there and broken out. The prior board action, as described in the RFA, also provided that additional funds be made available for Part B under the following 2 scenarios, as shown on the slide. If funds available in Part A are not exhausted, the amount remaining for Part A would be used to increase the amount available for Part B accordingly, and the new total amount of available funding would be distributed as follows, with the 40% small counties, 30% to medium counties, and 30% additional to large counties. Also, if one or more of the counties did not apply for Part B funds, any individual county share that is not applied for would be distributed according to that same formula. After the unawarded $2 million from Part A is reallocated to Part B, the funding currently available for Part B applicants is shown here. And you can see the original funding for available for small counties was $47,000. It goes up to $144,000. Medium counties, $82,000 going up to $131,000, and large counties, $154,000 up to $306,000. So it is a significant increase and allow the counties to do a lot more good inside their counties. With that, the staff recommends that the board award El Dorado, Fresno, and Sonoma counties the requested amounts for Part A for $1 million each as recommended by the executive scoring panel. Fund the 37 counties in Part B pursuant to the distribution formula set forth by the board's prior action in the RFA, the 40-30-30 formula, and allocate the remaining funds from Part A, the $2 million, to Part B, and direct staff to solicit requests from counties for budget modifications for additional expenditures pursuant to the terms and conditions of the RFA. And in the event that a grantee is unable to accept conditional grant award, authorize staff to accept relinquished awards and further direct staff to reallocate any relinquished awards to further augment Part B fundings. That is all for my presentation. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, John. there was a lot of information in your presentation, and I'd just like to begin by saying I appreciate all your hard work on this, and it was a heavy lift in a short period of time, and my co-chair, Mr. Steinhardt, was diligent and worked extremely hard on this, and I was really pleased with our scoring panel. I think we were able to do something a little bit different than is our general course of action, but I'm really happy with the outcome and who we had weigh in on the various proposals. And Mr. Steinhardt, I assume you'd like to comment.
Yeah, well, just by way of background, I mean, the curtain is about to close on DJJ in 2 weeks. Intake closes there, except for a small handful of kids with pending transfer hearings. And so counties are scrambling to adapt to no more DJJ. And so this grant was to give them the sort of infrastructure and improvement capacity that they lack. If there's one disappointment I have, it's that we did not get more regional proposals. We made room for 5, and we only got 3 for sex offender treatment programs that are badly needed on a regional basis once the DJJ program closes. So for females and mentally ill youth, we still have a big regional gap statewide in terms of DJJ closure and realignment. But this grant is going to help, and the good news is that the leftover funds will help every other county that applied for funds develop the new secure capacity. And just a note on that, maybe part of the legislative report is that the governor in May did sign Senate Bill 92, which adds to DJJ realignment by authorizing commitments to the local secure track. It creates that local secure track of baseline terms of years for youth at DJJ levels of offending. And of course, that is also to make sure that those kids don't face the only other option, which is transfer to adult criminal court. So counties now have, we just barely met the deadline on that as well. Counties have 2 weeks to get that secure track up and running as an option to DJJ and an option to adult court transfer. So that's just a note on the implementation side, a lot of unknowns here. Anyway, thanks very much to you, Linda, to our scoring panel participants, Miguel, Rachel, and Michelle. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the board wish to ask any questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, Adam, do you have individuals in the queue?
We have one person in the queue that just raised their hand. That would be Renee Menard. Renee, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Adam. My name is Renee Menard with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. And I really appreciate the scoring panel, the folks that joined from the community to be part of this process and the work that went into this. That being said, you know, this grant really wasn't intended to go out to counties pro rata with no oversight. And unfortunately, it's no coincidence that only 3 counties applied and the regional program goals weren't met. The BSCC took an overly narrow scope of what the grant could do. And instead of prioritizing probation and facilities, the BSCC could have had ensured that the funds would have gone to programming inside the facilities and other community-based supports. This funding was really intended to fund supportive infrastructure for high needs youth who are now going to be held locally. And the process overly emphasized probation at the exclusion of communities until kind of the final hour, unfortunately. Again, I really do appreciate that the scoring panel was created and that folks were involved. And at this point, I really have some concerns that remain around the pro rata funding, since now this is where the vast majority of funds are going, with no assurance that the funds will align with the grant purpose. I recommend that the BSCC provide guidelines on permissible spending. Right now, I notice that some folks are prioritizing passenger vans and bolstering shoe programs as opposed to some other supports that counties are proposing, which could include transitional housing and therapeutic programming. So beyond the guidelines, I also, at the very least, recommend that the BSCC put in reporting requirements so that the board and members of the public can understand how these funds are being used by counties, later down the line. So thank you very much for your work on this and for hearing from the public today.
Thank you. Adam?
Madam Chair, we have Miguel Garcia. Miguel, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Adam. Again, good morning, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Miguel Garcia with the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. I was also a member of the scoring panel. I do echo board member Steinhardt's his regards into not a lot of counties applying to the grant, and then I echo my colleague Renee Menard's last comments on the pro rata fund. I think there's a lot of money that is being distributed and without having an oversight on how those funds are being spent. Some agencies and probation departments are spending it on consulting rather than the improvements of the institution or on programming. Some agencies are doing it on shoe programs or passenger vehicles. I think those are just some of my concerns that as we go forward, if we could go ahead and monitor those, as well as also I did see that I guess there is a mechanism where funds will, if they're not accepted by the county, that they will be relinquished. Those funds will go to pro rata again. It's just there's a large majority of them of funds going without no strings attached, and they need to be monitored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have no other public comments for agenda item C.
Thank you. Back to the board. Any other questions and comments? Okay, I'm looking for a motion and a second, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
I'll second. This is Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon. Adam?
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Verarosa,
Aye.
Mr. Groden,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Vernon recused, Mr. Barranco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. I think we can invite Chief Vernon back. There she is. Moving on now to item D, the Board of State and Community Corrections Strategic Planning Process 2022 through 2026. Tanya, are you out there?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Tanya Parker-Mashburn, Field Representative in the County Facilities Construction Division. Today, I'm presenting Agenda Item D, which requests the board to approve the organizational goals for the BSCC 2022 to 2026 strategic plan, which will be in effect for 5 years from January 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2026. The organizational goals that are being considered today are the highest level of the strategic plan. They are the overarching statements that set the direction for the organization and state what the BSCC wants to achieve in the future. On April 27th, the board held a public workshop to discuss the organizational goals. The existing goals from the BSCC 2018 to 2021 strategic plan were used as the starting point. Board members considered input from the management team, staff, and the public while developing new goals that would align with the responsibilities and authority of the BSCC. As a result of the board workshop, a total of 4 goals were drafted. The management team worked to incorporate the remaining terminology that was desired by the board and are presenting the ideas for discussion today. For reference, the goals that were drafted for 2022 to 2026 are included as attachment D1 of your board materials. The organizational goals that are being proposed are showing on the screen. To understand the colored font that appears, gold represents changes made by the board at the workshop, and blue represents recommendations that are being made by the management team to integrate the remaining concepts that the board requested. To begin, I'll review each goal that has been developed thus far. We welcome your feedback and a discussion on each goal if further changes are desired. Goal 1, decision-making and operational transparency. Make decisions and carry out operations fairly, inclusively, collaboratively, and transparently. Goal 2, programs, training, and technical assistance. Align BSCC programs, including grants, training, and other responsibilities to support innovation, highlight data-driven practices and diversion programs, reduce recidivism, and improve reentry and system outcomes for individuals and families. Goal 3, facilities and inspections. Ensure the safety and care of people housed and working in local detention facilities through minimum standards guided by best practices, inspections, and technical assistance. Goal 4, data collection and reporting. Collect and provide data that inform effective policy and practice decisions. I'll pause for a moment to allow the board to review the proposed goals. I welcome questions that you may have and would be happy to make any edits in real time if the board has further recommendations for revisions. So hearing no
board members, yeah, okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Does anybody want to have any comments on any of the goals?
I think they're excellent goals that are inclusive for all the aspects that you're trying to accomplish. So very impressive.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Katie. I just want to echo what Secretary Allison said. I really appreciated the engagement of our board during the public workshop and of our terrific staff and management team in trying to get the goal statements at an appropriate high-level descriptive into high-level descriptive statements, which I think we have. And I really look forward to the important next steps, which are going to be developing the strategies and the objectives. So there's more work to do, and we really appreciate all the input into the process, and we'll welcome additional input from the public into this process as we move forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I couldn't agree more, Katie, and even the presentation today, to be able to make it clear to the board where the suggestions are coming from and what was board advised versus staff is super helpful. Well done, well done.
So thank you, I appreciate those comments. Do we have any last comments before I move on?
No, I think you can move.
Okay. Thank you so much. So now we'll transition our discussion to the next phase of the strategic planning process. The second step is the identification of organizational objectives. The goals will guide the development of objectives that can be implemented within the parameters of the BSCC's authority and available resources. A virtual listening session will be held on June 21st, beginning at 5 p.m., and will be open to the public regarding the organizational objectives. In addition, we will host an all-staff meeting on July 19th, whereby input about the strategic plan will be sought. Feedback from the public, staff, and the management team will be brought back to the board in September for consideration. Approval of the BSCC 2022 to 2026 strategic plan by the board is projected for the November board meeting. This concludes my presentation for this agenda item. At this time, staff recommends the board approve the organizational goals for the BSCC 2022 to 2026 strategic plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Looking to the board. Comments, suggestions, questions? Tanya, I think that's a sign of a job well done. Adam, do we have anyone in the queue?
Madam Chair, we have no public comments at this time.
Okay, then we'll move back to the board, and I would look for a motion in a second, please.
What the?
Excuse me,
I'll make a motion.
Pardon me, Madam Chair, I see two hands up.
Oh, never mind.
I see Renee Menard and Dominique Nong with their hands up.
And actually, there's 3 total now. We moved a little.
Okay.
So Renee, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, thank you. Renee Menard with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. I wanted to just speak to a few slight changes that the board could make to improve the goals that have been set. Especially recognizing that the board in relation to its inspections process has come under fire for the current shortcomings, with reports coming out on the need for serious improvements, one that I would really recommend is for goal 3. At a certain point, the word minimum was added, and I recommend rephrasing this. So rejecting the suggestion for the use of the phrase minimum standards. While we recognize that's a technical term often used, this really is the opposite of what a goal, a long-term vision for the agency should be. This is really pertinent that the board should be including language that has a goal being that facilities would provide the best possible care for people who are incarcerated in local facilities. And one other thing that I would like to bring up is for goal 4, there is a note about collecting data. We all know the importance of data. It's incredibly useful for the board, for the work that you all do, and also for other members of the public. And so collecting data kind of falls short of a goal that I think could be enhanced here. The goal should include analyzing the data, synthesizing the data, and identifying areas of need that could be improved. So just want to make those 2 recommendations for goal 3, goal 4, and look forward to hearing more discussion. Thank you.
Next, we have Brisley Martinez.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Briselli Martinez with Fresno Barrios Unidos. And I just wanted to echo Renee Menard's comment on the minimum standards. It's something that I noticed when it was being discussed. I just feel like, just to keep it short, we really need to move away from that minimum language and ensure that we use language that is ensuring the best possible care for incarcerated individuals. And also for goal 2, I think the board should include the goal of prioritizing effective community-based services. I think that this is something that time and time again, public has been asking for, and I think that this is a perfect opportunity to implement that directly into the goals. And that's just what I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last, we have Dominique Nong. Dominique, do you want to go ahead? Oh. I don't see her on the attendee list anymore.
Okay.
Oh.
I see a hand up, but I don't know if that's one we've already recognized.
And that, oh, there she is. That's Dominique.
She can talk now. She rejoined, so she lost her permissions.
Okay, Dominique, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, Children's Defense. Dominique Nong from the Children's Defense Fund, California. In order to align more closely with what we believe is the vision of this board and the direction in which it has been slowly moving, partly in response to public input, we're suggesting the following specific word changes to the goals that do align with some of the public comments made prior to me. So for goal 1, at the end of the statement around decision-making, we suggest you add the phrase with an emphasis on working closely with community members and particularly individuals with lived experience with the juvenile and criminal justice systems. For goal 2, we would ask this board to include in the list of alignment goals, prioritizing effective community-based services. For goal number 3, I would ask that the board stick with this board's original statement of goals and reject the suggestion to use the phrase minimum standards instead of solely standards. While the word minimum is included in the official regulations, it need not be included in the BSCC statement of goals. Throughout the title regulations revisions processes that have occurred in the past and currently, certain committee members have latched on to the word minimum to push for the opposite of what our state and this board should strive for, which is to provide the best care and support possible for incarcerated individuals. And finally, with regards to goal 4, we do appreciate the board's recognition of the critical importance of data collection. However, data collection is not enough. To fulfill its duties, the board's goal should also include analysis of the data to identify justice system needs and areas for improvement, and should also state a specific goal of making sure not only to provide data, but provide data in a manner that is easily accessible to the public. Thank you. And I could also email those specific wording changes if you'd like.
Madam Chair, this is Katie. As a matter of process, might I suggest, since we are continuing, and I'm really just, this is off the top of my head, since we are continuing the work on the strategic plan and we're about to move into the development of strategies and objectives, I have heard some interesting suggestions, and certainly it's the board's prerogative. You may want to some of these today right now on the spot, but another option could be to, I'd like to gather all the suggestions that our public commenters have made and take them through the public comment period. Not sure what that would mean for this action item, and maybe our council can help with that. We could do some sort of a tentative approval with these goals being subject to further modification as we further develop the plan.
Yeah, I concur. I think that there's been some interesting language provided, and I absolutely have no intention of rejecting that. I do know some of the conversations that went on when we specifically talked about the use of the word minimum standards. One of the things we did not want to do as we rolled these out was to align ourselves with goals that weren't within our purview. And so we worked very hard to stay within those boundaries. With that said, I think there's always room for more consideration. I would think that we could approve this language with consideration as we move it back and reevaluate it, rather than approve today.
Sorry, Linda,
So,
you were glitchy. I'm not sure. Did Linda freeze for other people?
Yeah, I couldn't get the recommendation.
Sorry about that. Go again, Linda, please. Linda and I are in the same house and she's getting glitchy. So sorry, once again, you froze, Linda. Third try's the charm.
This is the last time I come here, Katie. I'm going to go to Starbucks next time. At any rate, now you're glitchy. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Actually, Katie, I concur with what you said. I think we can note the recommendations that we just heard, tentatively move forward with the ability to go in and refine these based on public comment.
I saw David and Gordon with hands up.
I'll jump in. So if we're going to move this down the road without adoption today, that probably takes care of it and we can consider the recommendations. But if there's any format for adopting this even tentatively today, I was going to move that we remove the word minimum, which implies something that we don't want to imply. And I think the comments made that clear. We're not trying to do the minimum here. We're trying to do the right thing. So I don't know quite whether this is a motion. I guess it's a question. If we're going to move it down, then we can deal with that later. If we're going to adopt any of this today, I want to see the word minimum removed. Thank you.
Sheriff Gore?
Yeah, Linda or Katie, can you explain to me the thought process again? I think I missed it. Why we use the word minimum? Is that we didn't want to get ahead of our mandate? I'm not quite sure.
Do you want me to try to answer that, Katie?
Go for it. Sure, go ahead. No, I'm happy to. I was waiting for Linda, but you go, Aaron.
Yeah, so our statutory authority, Sheriff Gore, is that. So Penal Code Section 6030 requires the Board of State and Community Corrections shall establish minimum standards for local correctional facilities. So that is our statutory charge. And I think that is why that language is being used, at least in the goals and objectives.
I would think that could be wordsmithed to establish minimum, but always strive for something above that. Doesn't seem too difficult to wordsmith.
Well, I don't think the goal statement has to use the exact terminology that presently describes the standards. We could say it in other ways, and we can do it later through standards or through regulatory standards would accomplish the same goal. But I agree with the speakers that the word minimum sends the wrong message.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree either. I know what we were trying to do was to, we looked at our last set of goals, and they were lofty and, in our opinion, not based in, what the agency could accomplish realistically. So we moved back towards some finite language. We don't think the language is perfect at this juncture, and I really would welcome an opportunity to take in the suggestions we heard from public comment and move those towards another finished product. So I'm absolutely okay with tabling this for now, moving on to the next part of the process and being able to go back and refine some of this. Does that work for staff? I don't want to make life difficult.
Yes, it does. I'm sure Aaron will help us with what the nature of the motion should be, but Madam Chair, Gordon had his hand up. I think Gordon wanted to say
Okay,
something.
sorry.
Gordon, you're on mute. Yeah, you got it. Still on mute, Gordon. Sean, can you help? Oh, there you go.
I think actually I don't recall my hand being up.
Oh.
Since you called on me, I agree with what Dave Steinhardt had said, but
Okay.
but thanks anyway.
Sure, of course.
I agree with Chair Penner about tabling it and talking a little bit more for sure about the minimum. But I also remember we did have a conversation about goal 4 about the collect and analyze, but I don't remember what the outcome was. But we did talk about analyze, and I thought there was a reason for taking out analyze, but of course I don't remember now.
Well, I do think, sorry, I'm just jumping in here, Linda. I do think it was consistent with the nature of the conversation. So I want to acknowledge a couple of things. First, it is the point of a strategic plan to provide stretch goals. What if we're doing our best work, what would that look like? And so I agree with that as a premise of all of this. But I think the consideration around the use of the word analyze is that we certainly do analyze a fair bit of the data that we collect, but our statutory charge is to be a data clearinghouse. And, it's part of my job as the executive director here to figure out how to marshal the limited resources of the BSCC to do our very best work within our existing statutory and, quite frankly, financial authority. We could have a stretch goal that would certainly, I could envision putting in a budget change proposal to add several positions to do that kind of work, but I just don't want our board or our team, to be sort of saying, we're going to do all this when we're not yet, as Linda would say, we're not yet built to do that. So that am trying to find a landing spot that, addresses both of those things. What should the stretch goal be? And what can we, in a stretchy, realistic way, actually do? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important to, adhere to our abilities and capabilities, but I still think there's room for some new language in here. So good discussion, great public comment, and if I may, Erin, will you help us around,
Give us a motion.
where we're trying to head? What motion would work today?
I'm trying to, if what we're hung up right now, Madam Chair, is just the word minimum, and if otherwise the board would adopt that, again, I think there's a balance to be had, because the board is limited somewhat in its authority to establishing standards. They have to be minimum standards because that's what the statutory law requires. At the same time, the board gets to say what the minimum standards are, and rather being, it's a little bit of circular logic in some ways, but to the extent that the word minimum is stricken as from a goal statement, I don't think that would be difficult to do, understanding that the board is still constrained by the law.
I don't think there's really a conflict here in that the task is to create minimum standards and promote best practices. Those are two equally important facets of the responsibilities of the board, and one doesn't necessarily negate the other. Is it perhaps that it's the way that sentence is structured, and meaning after you state minimum standards, can we strengthen the fact that we're still going to promulgate and promote best practices? Right.
I think that's a good solution.
I'm going to make a motion that we postpone action on this item and send it back for further review. There's more than just the minimum language, which is already difficult to wordsmith on the fly here. And there are other things that Chief Penner, that our chair has suggested we need to consider. So I'm just going to move that we table it for further development. If I can get a second on that.
I second that.
We have a first and a second. We have a motion. I'm going to ask Adam to take roll.
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Vera Rosa,
Aye.
Mr. Groudon,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Miss Vernon,
Aye.
Mr. Bronco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you, Adam. But to finish, I think we have a direction. What I think we need now is direction to staff on how much further we go with the second part of the process. So I think it is acceptable, at least in my opinion, to work on the substance of the suggested goals that we tabled just now remains. So I think we can still direct staff to continue on part 2 of this while keeping open and in consideration the suggestions we had today. Is that too flighty, or does that work?
That's quite workable, Madam Chair.
Okay.
What I would anticipate is that we will get, by email would be fantastic, the suggestions on wording changes that came up today. And I think, and Tanya, please help me out if you think this is workable, because we have a public input process already planned on the strategies and objectives, we can also take what I'll just characterize as fine-tuning suggestions on the goal statements into that process, and then bring a whole package back to the board. Tanya, you can remind me of when that's going to be, with the goals as refined, as proposed by staff to be refined further for the board's consideration. Does that work, Tanya?
Absolutely. And as a reminder, the next time that we're going to come to the board is in September.
Okay, great.
And would it be out of line if there is a general concurrence of the board to delete the word minimum to move forward with that? Or would you like to table all of that? And
well, I heard a couple of board members interested in deleting the word minimum. It is certainly your prerogative, Madam Chair, to ask for a vote on that now. Or
I
to
suppose,
just say,
I suppose we can accomplish that as we move down the road. I'm gonna
You're going to be efficient.
chastise myself for trying to complicate things. And we'll go forward as the motion stands and was adopted. And I think we can move on down the road to the next agenda item.
September's pretty quick, so we will be back with a new product for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a minute. Got to get out of the agenda item and back onto the agenda. Okay, we are now on item E. That is enhanced local detention facility inspection update. Hello, Allison. Good to have you here, and feel free to take the reins.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members, and members of the public. My name is Allison Ganter. I'm Deputy Director here at the Board of State and Community Corrections. I'm here to do a bunch of things. I want to provide an update on the status of our recently completed targeted inspections. I also want to provide information on status of items of non-compliance from recently completed biennial inspections, provide any background information and answer any questions related to the enhanced inspection process, and also ask the board to approve the format for continued reporting on the enhanced inspection process. Just keeping in mind that we might make some slight administrative tweaks to the format as we move through this. I'm really pleased to report that our inspection team is out and about working on completing both pre-inspection activities such as documentation and policy review, and also the on-site biennial inspections. So to begin, I'd like to provide a quick roundup of the status of targeted inspection results and status. So I will share my screen here, and hopefully somebody just let me know if it's not showing up there. Otherwise, I'll just continue on. So what you are looking at now is the outstanding items of non-compliance and status from the targeted inspections that we began this inspection cycle with. And you can see as I scroll down that there are 3 remaining items of non-compliance at this moment. All of the other items of non-compliance that we've been reporting have been corrected following the enhanced inspection process. 2 of the 3 outstanding items are related to the agency's continued attempts to create and fill positions to be in compliance with Section 1027, number of personnel. We'll continue to follow up with those agencies and their progress on those items. And 1 is related to construction. And as you can see here, the last one on the bottom related to Trinity County. This item will be corrected when current construction is complete. Right now, that is slated to be completed in the fall of 2020, although there have been some delays. So we will continue to follow up with the agencies and report to the board on the status of these items of non-compliance. And at this time, staff do not recommend bringing any of these agencies before requesting the sheriff of either county to appear before the BSCC board. So that is the current status on targeted inspections, and I'll move into the status of the biennial inspections. So this screen looks ever so slightly different than the dashboard that's posted in the agenda item. It is the same exact information, but I want to preserve the headers for the board members and for the public to follow along. So we'll use this, this format right now. So of the 70 plus inspections that have been conducted recently, 6 agencies have outstanding items of non-compliance that are in various stages of the corrective action plan process. Items of non-compliance that have been corrected appear at the bottom of the dashboard, and I'll walk you through that in just a moment. Now, this list is going to continue to grow. It's going to get quite large as inspections are completed, and I'd like to give you an overview of the information, a brief status check for some of the counties, and staff's current recommendation on requesting that the sheriff appear before the board. And I think in the future, it's going to be helpful for board members to have an idea of items that you'd like to pull off this list for further discussion. And again, if staff do recommend requesting a sheriff or a chief probation officer to appear, we'll start to highlight those scenarios separately. So again, the format might change a little bit, but all of the information is here for review. Another point that I'd like to make is that all of our regulations serve to protect people housed in and working in local detention facilities, and some do present more serious issues. Not all items of non-compliance related to high-risk regulations will present immediate safety issues, and we'll walk through some of those scenarios as well. There's times when operations are compliant, they even exceed the regulation or the standards, but the policy or method of documentation may be in need of improvement to achieve full compliance. So I just want to just assure everybody that the field representatives are really careful to review the totality of conditions surrounding an item of non-compliance. And we try to get as much information related to that and the seriousness of an issue onto these dashboards to share with the board. All that to say is that there's many considerations that go into the data that you'll see here, and then staff's recommendation that would rise to the level of requesting a sheriff or a chief probation officer to appear. So there is a lot of data behind these lists, but in this dashboard and in the dashboard that we sent out in this posting, you'll see the agency, the county, the facility, the item of non-compliance that was found in the inspection findings. And you'll also see the IIR date. Now the IIR stands for the initial inspection report, and that's essentially the notice of non-compliance. It is a formal reporting piece of paper report that we are giving to sheriffs and chiefs of police before we complete the inspection. So they don't have to wait for the inspection report. They know at the end of the inspection that they have, or if they have items of non-compliance. And then also on this dashboard is the corrective action plan due date, which is 30 days after the initial inspection report, when we received the corrective action plan, and what the status of that corrective action plan is. Now, some of those items will not be completed immediately, so we're including the status of those items of non-compliance as they're moving through the corrective action plan process here. And you'll also see a count of the number of days since the initial inspection report. This is a really fluid process. We're going for correction roughly 90 days after notice of items of non-compliance. That's going to vary in different situations, and certainly with items that are more significant or serious. But those are the big pieces of information that you'll see here. And then finally, we have staff's recommendation for board action at this time. So again, what's not on this list is a clear determination of a health or a safety issue or an ongoing operational or non-safety issue. And at this point, I do want to note that none of the items of non-compliance at this point rise to the level of health and safety issue and would require board action at this time. And we will be indicating this certainly based on board feedback in future reports. So a couple of things to consider in these initial items of non-compliance, both for the inspector and for board members. Are these serious issues that may affect the health and safety of people in the facility? If it's been more than 30 days from the notice of non-compliance, has a corrective action plan been received by the BSCC? Is the agency actually proceeding through the corrective action plan, or did they just send the corrective action plan and move on? Has the item been corrected at 90 days or roughly thereabouts? If not, why not? Is there an ongoing operational issue that requires follow-up by BSCC staff? Or is there a construction or resource issue that will take some time to correct? And that refers back to some of those staffing and physical plant issues that I talked about in the targeted inspection. So hopefully trying to go through this quickly, just want to give some context behind this so that the board members can see what these data represent and how to think about them moving forward. You'll see two outstanding issues for the County of Butte. They were the top of the list because of the alphabet. These are in no particular order other than alphabetical. The first is related to their ability to hold people who are administratively separated. They don't currently have space to hold people that need to be separated for short amounts of time. And this has been an ongoing issue for the agency and is common in older facilities. This issue will not be corrected until construction has been completed, and you can see that in the status, if not resolved. We don't recommend bringing the sheriff, requesting the sheriff to appear before the board at this time. We'll also begin to sort in future reports items that cannot be corrected within a reasonable amount of time due to construction or resources. The second issue in Butte County is the facility is related to facility sanitation, safety and maintenance. All of the issues requiring operational change have been corrected, but some of the issues remain are related to facility and repair. And since materials and supplies for many, many things, as we all know, is taking longer due to COVID, the corrections are being delayed, and the agency continues to work through mitigation plans related to this item of noncompliance. And again, at this point, we would recommend requesting the sheriff to appear before the board. So I just want to highlight a couple of different scenarios. Again, we plan to sort these a little bit more as we get more data. You can see here in Kern County that they do have items of noncompliance. You'll see the same in Santa Clara. The reason that we haven't received their corrective action plan is that the inspection just happened. Their corrective action plan isn't due until July. So at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, you'll see updates for Kern County and for Santa Clara County as well. In Lake County, you can see that the issues are being tracked and followed up by the field representative. Although the issues are connected to operations related to health and safety, the field representative has been providing continuous technical assistance. They are reviewing documentation regularly and finding that items are being corrected in that documentation. They are waiting for a substantive amount of compliant documentation to make the final determination of compliance. And again, this issue is still moving through the corrective action plan process. We're still at 55 days, and the inspector is working with the agency, and we wouldn't recommend requesting the Sheriff of Lake to come before the board at this point. The next few counties, Lassen, Mariposa, and Modoc, are all in various stages of follow-up. You can see the status if not resolved, and in each of these instances, the field rep is having continuous conversations with the agency and their representative, accepting and reviewing monthly documentation in many cases to verify continued compliance before the final determination is made. And also follow-up inspections are being scheduled. They have been scheduled. They are scheduled out into the future. And at the next regularly scheduled board meeting, we will have updates on that. Mariposa is a little interesting because you see the 94 days. What has been interesting with tracking Mariposa's items of compliance is that they haven't had incidences related to the item of non-compliance since the inspection. So the inspector reviewed documentation for these items 2 years prior to the inspection and found items of non-compliance. And since the inspection in March, there haven't been use of these situations, the sobering cell restraint devices. And so there's no documentation to review. So the inspector has regular conversations with the staff there and will continue to keep us all posted on the progress there. So again, we are not recommending that the board request appearance from any of these agencies at that point. We'll likely see most of these agencies, if not all of them, move off the non-compliance list close to 90 days and appear on a corrected list. So I'm going to switch back to the dashboard that you would have seen in the posting. And at the bottom of the list, I'm going to explain 2 scenarios. As items of non-compliance are resolved, they'll drop to the bottom of this list so that we can track those that have moved on to compliance. The items from Orange County highlight a unique way that the enhanced inspection process is being implemented. So the inspection, the biennial inspection for Orange County hasn't happened yet. However, we were notified formally by the ACLU of some potential items of non-compliance that were related to food services in each of their local detention facilities. The ACLU's report was detailed and very specific on the potential violations with Title 15 regulations. So we immediately contacted the agency to schedule a targeted inspection and learned immediately that they were in fact out of compliance with Section 1240, which is related to hot food that was not being served. So we notified the Sheriff's Department immediately of the items of non-compliance and requested that they submit a corrective action plan within 30 days. They did. They submitted a corrective action plan on May 10th. Sooner than 30 days from the notice of non-compliance. And we received the corrective action plan and evidence of the items being corrected. And you can see those items appearing on the dashboard below. We are conducting a follow-up site visit to the facilities next week to make further determinations of compliance and also review some other items of concern with food services. And we will continue to keep the board updated on the progress of that. So that is a lot of information. I will stop the screen share for now. I am happy to provide details of any of the items that I've reported on, answer any questions, and also I'd like the board to approve the format in which this information is reported, and for now also approve staff's recommendations to not request sheriffs to appear before the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. A lot of work, and it's complicated. I'm sure all of you are reeling from all the information you just received. So I now look to the board for any questions or comments. Norma?
I thank you very much for that, Allison. It was amazing as always. I just have a question that at the end, I noticed all the items of non-compliance resolved. It's all about hot food, either not being served or not being served at certain times. And I'm wondering, is that part of the inspection? Like, is there a column for that? Or is that something that's just flagged if it's like some other process? So I was just wondering that.
It's a really good question. So I have talked about this a little bit at previous meetings. The local health inspector has the responsibility to inspect the agency annually for food service and nutrition, environmental health, and medical and mental health. So this item related to how food is served is typically found by the local health inspector. So typically where we would find an item of non-compliance is when our inspector would review that agency's local inspection report. Many of those have been delayed due to the pandemic. So we were notified of this in a different way, which is a new way for us to be notified and then take action and then apply the enhanced inspection process to it. I hope that answers the question.
Allison, maybe just for clarification, the regulation, I believe, does have specific language in it concerning hot food.
At least once a day. Yep.
That's right. So that's in the regulation, Norma. So that would be something we'd routinely be inspecting for.
The local health inspector.
The health department, excuse me.
Correct.
That would be inspected for by the local health department.
Annually.
But not by the inspections here.
So it is not on the BSCC's inspection checklist. We rely on the local health officer to do that inspection. Then we in turn review their annual reports.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
And I'm pleased, I think, and so should the board be pleased with, the ability and the nimbleness to get a concern from another agency and still be able to go in and respond. And I think this enhanced inspection process is super helpful with that. So we try to certainly use the standard inspection process, but are not ignoring information or allegations from other sources, and we're trying to move on those. So I'm pleased about that, because as we stand here, still wondering if we're going to get funded for new staff, and this process to continue rather than annually, we have to rely on some other sources for our ability to move forward on some of these items that are important.
David has his hand up.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, Linda, you echo and presage my first comment, which is when you listen to Allison, you appreciate really how much work this is at the staff level, county by county, facility by facility, all the reporting. And so in terms of holding back on supporting the additional positions that are needed, it's a kind of a mystery. And I hope that the resources to do inspections appropriately come around. My technical question was the recommendation. I mean, in terms of a motion, the staff report only asks to approve the format. And I think that what Allison asked for was to approve the non-appearance staff recommendations as well. And maybe some others want to discuss that, or maybe there'll be public comment on that. I don't know. So in terms of the motion, we need to clarify somehow what we're doing. And I do have a question for Allison. The format you're asking us to approve are the documents you showed on the screen? Is that it? Is that the info flow that you want us to approve? Because in terms of a motion, you need to link it to something for future reference. But so I wasn't clear 100% what the format we're approving was.
I think those are two very helpful clarifications to the anticipated motion, David. We should be referencing the documents, which we will refer to as dashboards, right, Allison?
Yes.
That's what we're asking you to approve in terms of format. And then on the second part, yes, I do think having built into the motion, the board agreeing with the staff recommendation that at this point, based on what we're seeing, we do not need to request an appearance from any of the sheriffs. Okay, back to you, Linda.
Okay, I think that made it very clear to me. Any more comments from members of the board before we go to public comment? Seeing none,
Linda,
Adam?
This is Katie. I just feel compelled to jump in here and say an incredible thank you to Allison Ganter and her team. You see how much work this is. Allison, well, certainly the inspectors are doing amazing work and have gotten right back out into the field as soon as we got our traveling policies nailed down when the pandemic was, a little bit more manageable. We still had people going out for targeted inspections, subject to public health protocols. We've now really ramped up the inspection schedule, and Allison Ganter has pretty much single-handedly built all of these really informative, clear, crisp, concise, easy to see, not only for our board, but for all of the public. And it's just an incredible work product. I'm grateful to the team for going out there. I appreciate the new kinds of input that we've referenced to where an issue was going on in Orange County that we had not been able to get out yet for that inspection. So all of these things, as you said, Chair Penner, affirm that this enhanced inspection process really is working well. Much of what we've been doing for inspections at the BSCC over many, many decades included all of this, but not in such a public fashion. So again, the governor asked for it, and I'm going to say we delivered. So I'm really, really, really proud of the team and grateful.
Agreed. Well stated, Katie. Back to you, Adam. Public comment.
At this time, I only have one. So to the members of the public, if you're calling by phone, remember to dial *9 if you want to speak, and or use the raise hand feature. I'm starting to see the raise hands. So do you want to give that a minute, Chair Penner?
Why don't we begin with the speaker?
Okay, we have Brian Goldstein. Brian, do you want to go ahead?
Good morning, Brian Goldstein with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice. We have serious concerns with the agency's oversight and enhanced inspections process. BSCC is rolling out this new process, but already not following it. Staff are also not presenting enough details about non-compliance. The Butte County Jail is segregating individuals who may be displaying self-harm in rooms for several hours, in spaces without toilets, without sinks, without bunks. The county submitted their corrective action plan past the deadline. We don't understand why the BSCC didn't ask Butte County to appear before the board today. Butte also has, quote, numerous maintenance and sanitation issues. We still don't know what this means. This language fails to provide any useful information about conditions. We're also seriously concerned about the compliance issues with safety checks and restraints in other counties. BSCC must do a better job to describe the details of non-compliance and proposed corrections. The agency must ask non-compliant counties to publicly account for these failures. Otherwise, this non-compliance endangers people's lives every day. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have no other public comments for agenda item E.
Okay. Back to the board. I'm looking for a motion and a second.
I motion to move.
Second, Sheriff Gore.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you. Adam?
Point of order. We need a motion that deals, I think, Katie, you mentioned the features of the motion that, or particulars that need to be included, because if we simply approve the staff recommendation, it doesn't go all the way.
Madam Chair, would you like me to state a suggested motion?
Yes.
Okay, I believe the motion, to the sense of the conversation, was that the motion encompasses to approve the format for reports to the board on the dashboards that are included in today's report, and to approve staff's recommendation that at this time we are not requesting any of the sheriffs who've had their facilities inspected recently to appear before the board at our next meeting. Two-part
Correct.
motion.
And I don't think that's substantially different from what was said during the presentation, but we'll adopt the motion as you stated, and go back to the board for a motion and a second on.
Well, I'll move the motion as characterized by the executive director. But I would like to make a comment after I think it's done. Okay, thank you. I'll move.
And I'll second the motion.
All right.
Kathleen Allison.
Mr. Steinhardt?
David, you're on mute.
Go ahead and take the vote, and then I had a comment post.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to do it before the vote. Okay, Adam?
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Vera-Rosa,
Aye.
Mr. Groudon,
So I'm going to abstain, and I guess I didn't understand the full scope of this agenda item. Obviously, my county's on the list, and I would have recused myself if I'd known. I just wanted to make a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Groudon abstained. Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Miss Vernon,
Aye.
Mr. Bronco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries with 9 votes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Steinhardt?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to what Brian Goldstein said about Butte County, and I found it somewhat disturbing. I know, Allison, you've done a diligent inspection job, but and we've approved a motion not to ask the county and the sheriff to appear at this time. But I would just like to underscore my sense that I hope you take a considered maybe deeper look at some of the things that were said about putting people in rooms for hours at a time with no toilets and no sinks and no bunks. If that's all the case, then that seems kind of serious to me. So that's my comment.
And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I just would like to make a point. So I don't want to speak specifically to any particular instance, but we are trying to take the information that's contained in the full inspection reports. Those are all posted online on our website as well. There's so much more data, as I mentioned, behind the information that we're sharing. What we've been trying to do is come to a place where we can share the most top level information. So we'll certainly take a look at what we're reporting, but I do want to let people know, board members and public members alike, the full inspection reports are available on our websites, and they do contain a lot more information than just a chart that we're trying to fit on a computer screen.
And I think also of note is that we're trying to honor a timeline that's built into this process on some of these matters that we're not bringing back initially. And I think that's what I understood you saying, and I think we have to adhere to that. That's how the process moves forward. But thank you, Allison. I appreciate what you said, and David for your remarks. So unless there's any further remarks, we'll move on. Okay, item F, Adult Reentry Program Warm Handoff, Cohort 2 recommendations. Hi, Tanya.
Good afternoon, Linda. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. All right. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Tanya Hill, and I am a field representative in the Corrections Planning and Grants Programs Divisions of the BSCC. I am before you today to present Agenda Item F. This agenda item requests approval of the 37 Warm Handoff Awards as recommended by the scoring panel of the Adult Reentry Grant Program. And I have a brief PowerPoint to share with you to provide background on ARG and the particulars of the funding recommendation process. As you may have seen, we have reposted the ARG board item and attachments due to an error in the funding list, and the new report and attachments are before you. I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to Chair Penner as the ARG scoring panel chair and the ARG team, to include both our analysts and research staff. Everyone has worked tirelessly to get this information before you today. The Adult Reentry Grant Program, or ARG, was established in the Budget Act of 2018 and charged the BSCC with administering competitive grants to community-based organizations that support people formerly incarcerated in state prison. Upon its inception, the ARG program provided funding for 3 specific reentry activities: rental assistance, warm handoff, and rehabilitation of existing property or buildings. Since 2018, The ARG program has provided $100+ million in funding for 77 CBOs to provide reentry services. The Budget Act of 2020 provided $37 million to be divided equally in the amount of $17,575,000 for rental assistance and $17,575,000 to support the warm handoff and reentry of people transitioning from state prison, as well as $1,850,000 to the BSCC for administrative costs. In August 2020, the board approved an expedited release of funds to help with early state prison releases due to COVID-19. 8 community-based organizations received rental assistance awards totaling $17,575,000 to help address the urgent housing needs of people returning to communities from state prison. The board also agreed to administer the warm handoff component using a competitive process that began in September of 2020. In September 2020, the board authorized staff to amend the Cohort 1 Warm Handoff Request for Proposals, or RFP, with technical edits and public comments. This decision was made because the BSCC had not yet received meaningful data to indicate whether substantive changes were required or would be beneficial, since the initial RFP was released in January of 2019, with awards being made in July of 2019. Chair Penner was also appointed to serve as chair of the ARG scoring panel at the same meeting. In November 2020, the board authorized the release of the Cohort 2 Warm Handoff RFP with a February 5th, 2021 due date. The BSCC made $17,575,000 available in the RFP and received 106 applications, requesting $48,173,028. 91 applications met submission criteria and were considered for funding. The ARG scoring panel, or scoring committee, as listed on the screen before you, convened for a 2-day training in March of 2021, and committee members were trained on the proposal reading and rating process. Once all scores were submitted by committee members, BSCC generated a ranked list of all proposals that were considered for funding, resulting in the 37 recommendations before you today. It is prudent to note that the 2 applicants that finished at the cutoff point between a full award and a partial award received identical scores. Staff recommends that this tie should be resolved by evaluating the individual factor scores of the 2 proposals, starting with the highest weighted rating factor. In this case, both applicants received identical scores for the highest weighted rating factors, rating factor number 2 weighted at 40% and rating factor number 1 weighted at 30%. Consequently, rating factor number 3 weighted at 20% was used to determine the rank order, and Center for Employment Opportunities is recommended for partial funding. All 37 CBOs recommended for funding and their project summaries are included in your attachments. F2, the list of proposals recommended for funding in ranked order, and F5, project descriptions for proposals recommended for funding. And as you will see both in your attachments before you and on the screen, you can see where the funding error was corrected and the changes that resulted from that correction. In summary, staff recommends the board take the following actions: fully fund 36 proposals totaling $17,104,139, and partially fund the Center for Employment Opportunities for $470,861, which fell at the funding cutoff point in the ranked order list. Authorize staff to continue to make awards from the rank ordered list if any applicant is unable to accept the award or relinquishes an award. first by offering to any partial awardee, and then to the next highest ranked application. And lastly, authorize staff to continue to make awards from the rank ordered list if staff determine during the follow-up award making process that an applicant recommended for funding is ineligible, if a grantee becomes ineligible during the grant cycle, or if the grant award is relinquished during the grant cycle. This concludes my presentation, and I am happy to take any questions that you may have.
Well, that was a lot of information. Well done. Appreciate all that hard work. It's a big lift, another big lift. Looking to the board, Sheriff Gore, I see you have your hand up.
Two things. Aaron, do I have to recuse myself since there's some San Diego County awards being given out?
So these are awards that are going to community-based organizations.
Yeah.
If you were sitting on one of the boards, definitely recuse yourself.
Okay.
But to the extent that it's not going to the sheriff's department or county government, so you're not required to recuse yourself.
Okay, and if you already covered this, I apologize. Why did University of California at San Diego drop off the list?
University of San Diego did not drop off the list. What happened was they were originally, they requested 500,000. We had an error in our data entry, which showed them as requesting 460,000, I believe the number was. As we were preparing the contracts, we noticed the error, corrected the error, which had to shift the last possible awardee, which shifted them off the list as we redistributed that funding.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other members of the board? Comment, questions? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to comment on this?
Madam Chair, I have 2 members of the public at this point. If anyone wants to make a public comment, please dial *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise hand feature. So I'm going to call the first participant. That would be Christina Yee.
Good morning. My name is Christina Yee. I'm the Executive Director for Breakout Prison Outreach, representing Santa Clara County. This is new information that I just became aware of, but our organization was fortunate to be ranked on the list of agencies recommended to receive the Adult Reentry Grant for Warm Handoff Reentry Services Cohort 2. Our proposal scored tied for the 37th and last ranking. We were being recommended to receive $30,231 over the 3-year period, which was approximately 6% of the $500,000 we applied for. I was requesting that the board fully fund our proposal to demonstrate the board's good faith effort to equitably disperse funding among the counties represented on the executive committee's list of recommendations. Santa Clara County is listed among the largest counties in California, yet it has been allocated less than 3% of the $17,575,000 of available funding. The agency which shared our ranking is located in a county allocated to receive approximately 35% of this funding. While we both scored the same overall, we also scored the same in program description and need. So I'm not here to challenge either of those points. I am here to challenge the process of how funding is allocated in this situation. The community relies on the discernment of public servants to make conscious decisions to disperse public funds among the counties as equitably as possible and whenever it is in their power. An attempt to proportionately award funds among the counties needs to be a part of today's decision-making process. So on behalf of Santa Clara County's parole population, I ask the board to reconsider the funding allocations and fully fund Breakout Prison Outreach for Santa Clara County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Brian Goldstein. Brian, do you want to go ahead? And
Okay, maybe,
Okay.
pardon?
I have one more public comment.
Excuse me, Adam, this is Katie. I'm going to jump in. I can't find Sean or Matt from IT. Could one of you please elevate Sheriff Groudon to panelist? He was bumped off and is in the waiting room.
Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
on that now.
Thank you, Sean.
So
Next, Adam?
I have Brian Goldstein. Brian, are you still available or?
Thanks, Adam. I actually didn't submit my name for public comment on this item, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Next we have Restorative Partners. Is it
There we go.
There you go.
I'm Sister Teresa Harpin, and I'm the Executive Director and founder of Restorative Partners. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So my comment is just gratitude. Thank you for being able to recommend us for this funding. We're extremely excited. We've been doing mentoring for a number of years locally through the Sheriff's Office. And now with our Pearly program in full engagement, this is to enable us to stretch ourselves to include that necessary element of reentry that is so important when you come alongside folks that are trying to navigate their reentry experiences. We deal with a lot of lifers, a lot of people who haven't seen the dawn of day in many, many years. And so I just had to express my gratitude to you today for the recommendation and for you to hear it firsthand. Good work and thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes public comments.
Great. Thank you very much, Adam. Back to the board for any questions or comments.
I have a process question. In the circumstance where there was an input error with UC San Diego, and that caused the 37th select fee to fall off, had they already been notified that they had been selected, or would that have taken place after our vote today?
No, no one had been notified at this point because everything is public record. It was posted on the website 10 days in advance. So anyone interested, and during the application process, we did let everyone know that that we would be going to the board on June 10th. So people did know to check the website and know to look for what was happening next, and that those funding recommendations would be available in advance of the board date. But no one was ever officially noticed by the BSCC in advance of today's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question, Tanya, because, you know, certainly it's a competitive process and people make very compelling arguments, you know, why or why not, you know, they were funded or not funded. During the last ARG process, I believe we had the same policy wherein if somebody relinquished the money that it would drop down to those next in order. Just historically, what happened during that process? Did we have any relinquishments?
In the first round?
Right.
Not that I'm aware of. We did not. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, I don't
understand why people are, you know, it's hard to be close to the line and not successful. So I wondered if there was any track record in the last round that may give people hope that they could benefit by virtue of a relinquishment. So just
I
asking.
understand. Yeah, no, at this point, to my knowledge, no, there were no relinquishments in that last round. But of course, you know, I can always offer, I do know that we anticipate continued funding. So there should be more opportunities to continue to apply for these dollars.
Absolutely. And if I may add just one additional thought, Madam Chair, this is Katie Howard. I certainly understand the public comment that we received from the applicant who was at the cut point, and as one of the researchers who helped many years ago to build some of the executive steering committee scoring processes. It was a line that stuck out in my memory about how important it is to have the determination be really clear about, you know, that it's a competitive process and that the scores are weighted and all of these different things. And as he said, the heartbreak occurs at the cut point. And that's what we had an example of today. When you see that, you know, I'm certain it's an important and worthwhile project, and it was just very close to getting funding. But because we have to go by the rules that are included in the RFP, it would really not be appropriate, and certainly would be subject to legal challenge if we added on another consideration such as geographic distribution. So I just wanted to at least acknowledge and respond in that fashion to the comment we received.
Thank you, Katie, for that clarification. I think that's helpful. Anybody else from the board? Okay, having heard both public comment and further reaction of the board, I'm going to ask for a motion and a second.
This is Gordon. I move.
Okay, thank you, Gordon. Second,
Andy.
please.
Andy, second.
Thank you, Chief. Adam?
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Miss Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Vera Rosa,
Aye.
Mr. Groudon,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Miss Vernon,
Aye.
Mr. Barranco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Aye.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Tanya, for all your hard work. Moving on to item G, the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment or RSAT grant funding recommendations.
Madam Chair, this is Andy. I'll recuse myself on this one per the
Thank
suggestion
you.
of our attorney.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board.
Hi, Tim.
Again, my name is Timothy Plasek, field representative from Division of Corrections Planning and Grant Programs. Today, presenting also agenda item G, which is a request for approval of the Residential Substance Abuse or RSAT program funding recommendations. And first, I really want to thank Sheriff Dean Groudon for his leadership as chair of the RSAT ESC, the ESC members for their time, Casey Wormuth, Ashley Garibaldi, and Michelle Killian from BSCC for their hard work as well. This agenda item requests board approval of the RSAT program funding recommendations from the RSAT ESC, which is attachment G1. A list of proposals recommended for funding is provided as attachment G2. If approved, 5 local adult detention facilities will receive federal funding to provide substance use disorder treatment and aftercare services from July 1, 2021 through July 30th, 2024. A total of $2 million in federal funding is available for the first year beginning July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Continued funding for the second and third year is contingent on the amount of federal funding available. The BSCC received 7 proposals requesting a total of $3,115,029 in response to the RSAT RFP released February 12, 2021. On May 5th and 6th, 2021, BSCC research staff provided rater training to the RSAT ESC, and then the ESC rated the proposals. The BSCC consolidated the scores and generated the ranked list of all proposals. The top 4 proposals requested a total of $1,839,901 in federal funds of the $2 million available for the first year. The recommendation is to offer the remaining $160,099 in partial funding to the 5th proposal from the ranked ordered list, starting with the next highest ranked proposal. As you can see, Tulare County, Contra Costa County Alcohol, Drug Services, and Behavioral Health Division, in partnership with the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department, Sacramento County, and Santa Cruz, are the 4 proposals fully funded, with Kern County's Sheriff's Office with partial funding, as recommended from the ESC. For this agenda item, staff recommends the board take the following actions. Fully fund 4 proposals totaling $1,839,901. partially fund 1 for $160,099, which fell at the funding cutoff point at the ranked order list. Authorize staff to continue to make awards from the ranked order list if any applicant is unable to accept the award or relinquishes an award, first by offering to any partial awardee and then next to the highest ranked application. And authorize staff to continue to make awards from the ranked order list if staff determines during the follow-up award making process that an applicant recommended for award is ineligible, or should a grantee become ineligible during the grant funding cycle. This concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Back to the board. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Dean Grouden here. I actually have a couple comments, but if it's okay, I'll wait till after we take action on the item.
Okay, happy to wait. Adam?
Madam Chair, we have no public comments for this item.
Okay, returning back to the board, I'm looking for a motion and a second, please.
Can I ask a question really quick? Sorry.
Sure.
How does this compare to resources that are already available, whether it's through DAPO or PRCS, through various county resources or state resources?
So I can probably answer that, or Tim can.
Okay.
It's federal money though that comes through, correct, Tim?
Yes, yes, sir.
So these are additional programs in addition to what we're already providing.
That's correct.
Yes.
And different funding source, I think is.
Yeah, this is from the Bureau of Justice Assistance through the U.S. Department of Justice.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions, comments? All right, looking for a motion and a second, please.
Steinhardt will move it.
Thank you.
Second, Vernon.
Thank you. Thank you. Adam?
Chair Penner,
Aye.
Ms. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Vera-Rosa,
Aye.
Mr. Grouden,
All right, aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Vernon,
Aye.
Mr. Barranco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills recused himself, Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sheriff Grouden?
Yeah, just a couple comments. I've chaired this ESC a number of times. I want to thank Tim and the other BSCC staff for their work. But one thing we really noticed this time is there is a re-entry component or community-based component after they leave custody. And what I observed in these most recent proposals is a much more robust re-entry services included. And I think that's partially because of the expanded housing available to people now when they're leaving custody, and just the overall expansion of the medication assisted treatment and other programs. But it was really nice to see, so I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. It is good. I mean, it's sort of like this puzzle's kind of coming together finally. We've gotten all this money out into the field and, trying to help needy people in the community access it is taking some time to get in place. So I too am pleased with the way these things are starting to gel. Any other comments? Okay, moving on to item H, Proud Parenting Grant Program. I thought I saw Helene pop up here.
I am here.
There
Thank
you are.
Mr. Penner. Yep.
And before we start this, Helene, I did want to flag, I think I missed this one at the start. County probation departments are eligible, potentially eligible for this grant program, as well as CBOs. Helene, I don't know if the Anti-Recidivism Coalition has ever participated in the Proud Parenting Program, but
Has not yet.
Has not yet. But Norma, I don't know if you want to recuse out of an abundance of caution, and also Chief Vernon, if your county is interested in participating in this program.
But isn't Norma the chair of it?
Oh, Norma's the chair. You're already disqualified. I apologize.
I disqualify you on Chair Penner's motion.
I
Takes care of
apologize.
that.
You know, we very rarely
I did know that
get
at one point.
council making an erroneous statement, so I'm going to write this down.
Please do.
We'll keep you, Ms. Kumpion.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Helene Zettner, and I'm a field representative with the Corrections Planning and Grants Program Division, and I'm before you presenting Agenda Item H. This agenda item requests that the board approve the request for proposals for the RFP as recommended by the Proud Parenting Grant Program Executive Steering Committee to authorize the release of the RFP to the field. In February of this year, the request was made of this body to authorize the Executive Steering Committee, or the ESC, and its process for the Proud Parenting Grant Program funded by the state's general fund dollars. This action and corresponding timeline were approved, as well as appointing board member Norma Kumpion as chair and allowing staff to work with her to appoint subject matter experts to serve as the ESC members. The composition of the ESC has been provided to you as attachment H2 of this item. And I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Ms. Kumpion and the ESC members who provided their time and expertise to the process, as well as our Proud Parenting staff here at the BSCC. On April 21st, the ESC came together with a goal of developing the Proud Parenting RFP to establish the rating criteria and evaluation components. Attachment H1 is the culmination of all their hard work. Just a few of the elements of the RFP are that the grant period is for 3 years, beginning this January 1st, 2022. Funding for this grant is subject to monies appropriated in the 2021-2022 State Budget Act, which historically has been $835,000 annually, and the next two subsequent budget acts for years 2 and 3 of this grant funding cycle. A maximum of $100,000 may be requested by eligible applicants for a single year of funding, culminating in a 3-year grant cycle, maximum amount of $300,000 per awardee. Eligible applicants for the grant award are county probation departments, county offices of education, nonprofit community-based organizations, and as an addition to prior years' eligibility criteria, federally recognized Indian tribes in California. The ESC felt that by expanding the eligibility, it would broaden service elements provided to youth in underserved areas and would hope to provide for a more concerted effort in partnering and collaborating with other agencies. And lastly, these funds specifically target youth who are age 25 and under, who are either currently a parent or expecting, and who are or have been previously involved in the criminal or juvenile justice systems, and or who are considered crossover youth with the child welfare system. It is staff's recommendation to approve and authorize the release of the Proud Parenting Grant Program request for proposals as recommended by the Executive Steering Committee. Thank you. Are there any questions? Right?
Norma, would you like to say anything before we move on?
Just to thank Helene for all of her guidance. This was my first time, and it's a lot. It's a lot of information. A lot goes on behind the scenes, and I was just really impressed with the ESC members and all of their very thoughtful discussions about how this grant will affect our community and people out there. So I just really appreciate that. So thank you.
Great, great. Any other members of the board? I will say this is one of the exceptional grants we do in this agency, and it's been around for a long time, but it's really, really meaningful, and I think in the long game plants some great seeds for success out there. So it's a great, great grant. Do we have any members of the board, the public that would like to speak?
Madam Chair, currently I do not have any members of the public to speak on agenda item H.
Thank you. Back to the board. I'm looking for a motion and a second, please.
I proudly motion to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Second?
David Steinhardt seconds.
Thank you very much. Adam?
Chair Penner?
Aye.
Ms. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Vera-Rosa?
Aye.
Mr. Gradden?
Aye.
Mr. Gore? Did we lose Mr. Gore? Okay, I'll move on. Ms. Vernon recused. Mr. Barranco,
Aye.
Mr. Mills,
Absolutely.
Mr. Steinhardt,
Aye.
Ms. Kumpion.
Aye.
Madam Chair, the
Great.
motion. Oh,
Oh, I jumped the gun. I made a celebratory remark before I got a count. Okay, thank you all. And now we move to the final matter on our agenda, which is public comment. And this is a time set when any member of the public would like to make any public comment. They choose to. This doesn't have to sort of be attached to an agenda item.
Madam Chair,
Adam?
before I call out the public comments, I just wanted to let all the board members know that agenda item B, Title II typo, was fixed and it has been posted online, just an FYI for you.
All right.
And for public comment, I do not have any public comments in the queue. Just a reminder to the public, if you want to speak, please use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if you're on phone.
Okay. All right. As Katie noted, we have she inked it in the July 15th board meeting. I think that will also be virtual. And I appreciate all of your participation today. Thanks to all of you. And we'll see you again in July.
Yes, and just one more, if I may, Madam Chair. Thank you, Gordon. We will miss you.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to serve. Thank you.
And Sheriff Gore, thanks for hanging in there after the shingle shot. I know that's not a great feel. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right.
We're adjourned.
Now.
Thank you.